Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be making some baklava, and this is one of my favorite desserts. It's just so good, so comforting, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to start out with is the phyllo dough, and this is by the brand Athens, and this is my favorite dough to use for this. Phyllo dough is given, but it's my favorite brand to use for this. So right here I have some clarified butter, which is also called ghee. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to melt this. So I'm going to go in with a couple of spoonfuls, and that's just what I'm starting out with. But like later while we're making this, I might need a little bit more. Now I can pop this in the microwave until it's fully melted. Right here we have the phyllo dough, and it comes in these really long and thin sheets. If you're making this, be careful because this dough is definitely really delicate and it can rip easily. With a pastry brush, I can go in to some of my clarified butter, and then I can just pretty much paint the bottom of the baking dish. And I can get a little bit up on the sides as well. And then we can pick up one. This one's split, but it's okay if it splits because you can still put it in. I'm just gonna put in one of our pieces. And I'll take the other part of that piece, it's the other part that's broken. I just put that in as well. In the final result, little tears aren't going to make that big of a difference. So after you've done that, you can repeat that process 8 times. So you can go butter, pastry, butter, pastry, butter, pastry, and just get about 7 or 8 more of these pieces of pastry on top. So my workstation is a little bit messy right now, but I've put down probably about 8 sheets of the phyllo dough. I always seem to lose count by 1 or 2 at the end, but either way, it's still gonna be enough. It's at least 8, probably 8 or 9. The next part is the pistachios. Right here I have some pistachios. They're lightly salted. You don't really want flavored pistachios. I get lightly salted. They taste good. I couldn't find just normal pistachios, so I'm just going to be using these. So I don't have an exact measurement for this, but I'm kind of just going to eyeball the amount of pistachios I put in, and I can always blend up more later. Something to understand though is when you're blending these up, you don't want like a fine powder, but you don't want huge chunks. You want like a middle ground, so you have like textural, when you bite into it, you can have like a little bit of texture from the pistachios, but you also don't get like too much. So it's not like crazy crunchy, because it's also gonna be crunchy from the dough. So right here you can see I have the pistachios, and if you look in there, there's a little bit of chunks and a little bit of powder. I probably went a little bit over what you would want, but this is still like really close, and it's definitely gonna work. So I've done the 8 layers first, and so now what I can do is I can take some of my pistachios, and I can just sprinkle those in. Just get a nice covering. So right here you can see I've layered the pistachios nicely, and now what I can do is I can take some of my clarified butter, and with my pastry brush, I can just kind of flick it over the pistachio, because if you brush it, the pistachio is going to stick to the pastry brush, and you're not really going to distribute the butter nicely. And just like that, we can continue layering our dough, and we can go on with about 8 or 9 more layers. Just finished up 8 more sheets of the phyllo dough, and now we can go on with our pistachios one more time. Right there I did some more pistachios, but it's just slightly less than what I want, so I'm just going to blend up a couple more. So that is actually all the pistachio you're going to need for the recipe. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go on top with more phyllo sheets, and we're going to do about 10 to 11 this time, just a slight bit more than what we did earlier. And then we'll pretty much be done, and we can pop it in the oven after that. Halfway through this final process, you can go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So I actually run out of my original amount of butter on the 4th sheet of phyllo dough, in the final process. So I'm gonna do about 6 more. So I don't really need that much more butter. So I just wanna let you guys know. So that amount that I had shown earlier, that should get you through most of the process. I'm just gonna add probably about this much, and this is a tablespoon that I'm using. I'll probably do that 2 times. So about probably a little more than like 2 tablespoons of the clarified butter. I've layered all of the baklava, and now we can cut into this. And it's important to cut this before you toss it in the oven, because it's gonna make it really hard to cut after you cook it. So traditionally you cut it diagonally, so that's what I'm gonna do here. So I'm just gonna start on the end. I'm just gonna cut through diagonally like that. I'm just gonna do long strips across just like that. Now, when you cut this, you want to cut straight so you get nice diamond-like pieces. You can toss this in for about 45 minutes and just check on it occasionally. And once the top is nice and golden brown, it's gonna be perfect. Now for the good part. This is where all that amazing sweet flavor is gonna come from for this dessert. We're pretty much gonna be creating like a sugar sauce that we're gonna pour over the baklava once it's come out of the oven, and it's gonna give an amazing sweet flavor. It's gonna be sticky. It's just gonna be so delicious. So first up, into our pan, we can go in with about 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, and then 1 cup of water, and then I'm gonna go in with about 1/3 cup of honey. Now we've added all that to a pan, we can turn it to a medium-high heat. And also you can add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract if you want, but we currently don't have it at the house. But you can definitely add that, but if you don't have it, it's totally fine. It's still gonna taste amazing. So this has come up to a boil, so now we can lower the heat. And we're just gonna let it kind of reduce and get nice and thick. So that sauce is starting to thicken, it's tasting nice and great. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna turn off that heat, and I'm gonna let it cool down all the way, or at least most of the way. And so when we take out that baklava, we can pour this over, and it's gonna harden on that baklava so nicely, and it's gonna be absolutely perfect. So this baklava just came out of the oven, and so I'm just gonna take a spoon and some of my sauce. I'm just gonna layer it in there and get every single nook and cranny. I'm just gonna get in here and get a nice little piece. I can't wait to dig in. Let's go. That is amazing. The dough is nice and crunchy. The pistachios are also crunchy. There's great textures here. And then the sweetness from that syrup is just amazing. Make sure to give this one a go. I'll see you in the next one.